u dwar dan wieħed irid jiddiskuti wkoll. Palma jista' jkun illi nagħti l-każ illi jkollok pereżempju romanz illi l-iskop tiegħu ma jkunx dak li jkun biss romanz ta' dat tip, ġifieri mingħajr ebda valur artistiku fejn ikompli jitkellem dwar dan iż-ġanr ta' xogħol pornografiku which consists almost exclusively of pornographic representation of sexual activity. There is no plot, no characters, no motivation except relating to sexual activity, and only a shadowy background which may involve a standard apparatus of a remote and luxurious chateau, numerous silent servants, and so forth. Vedi hemm ħafna fuq da dwar kif jistgħu jiġu klassifikati x-xogħlijiet li jew ikunu kollha apposta intenzjonalment biex ikunu pornografiċi, jew kellha jkollhom xeni fihom li jistgħu jitqisu hekk. U fuq dan wieħed irid ukoll jiddiskuti. Jiena kienet interessanti d-diskussjoni li kelli diġà ċans nieħu sehem fiha darb'oħra fuq dan. Meta pereżempju fuq il-każ ta' realtà kien hemm din id-diskussjoni li ħadd sehem fiha sewwa fejn jiena ippruvajt noħloq din id-distinzjoni bejn xogħol li intenzjonalment ikun miktub biex ikun pornografiku, allura jaqaf dik il-kategorija, inkella le. Issa wieħed irid ukoll hawnhekk jara eżatt qed jingħad. Jiġifieri jekk wieħed, aħna nistgħu naslu li niddiskutu dan ix-xogħol, xogħol, din l-istorja pereżempju, il-fatt li istorja diġà tagħmel differenza. Imma din l-istorja, din in-novella, nagħtu każ li wieħed jista' jgħid din hi mingħajr ebda dubju din novella pornografika. Allora jien il-mistoqsija li kont staqsejt dakinhar kienet jekk tista' turi li din hi pornografika, allura għandek tħalliha tiġi pubblikata, mentri dakinhar jekk jiena fimt sew u anki sal-lum id-diskussjoni ma kienx dwar hekk, id-diskussjoni kienet dwar jekk kienx pornografika. Qegħdin tifhmu fil naħseb li wieħed irid ikun jaf eżatt x'qiegħed jiddiskuti hawnhekk. U l-ħaġa li jiena nixtieq nispiċċa biha u nixtieq li din nistaqsija lill-avukat. Għax l-avukat qal jiena ktibta din staqsa għandux dritt l-istat iwaqqaf play milli tittella u qal li għandu dubji serji dwar dan. Din nixtieq nistaqsijilu jiena, però veru bħala mistoqsija ġifieri. Ġifieri u jaħseb li jekk jgħid le għax kienet mistoqsija retorika, ir-risposta tagħha kellha tkun fl-opinjoni tiegħi, fl-opinjoni tiegħu kellha tkun le. Allura inti qed tgħid li kull l-istat m'għandu dritt iwaqqaf l-ebda play milli tittella, pereżempju play li tinglorifika t-tortura, play li tistimula jew tħeġġeġ għar-razziżmu, play li tpinġi f'dawl sabiħ il-moħrija tal-annimali. Dawn huma biss mistoqsijiet li veru nixtieq li l-avukati jġibhom li għax minħabba li għamel dik l-asserzjoni naħseb li tajjeb illi nidħlu fiha. Veri jiena kull ma għamilt hawnhekk jekk intom tifhmu ftit id-diskors tiegħi fejn xtaqt li wassal kien illi nistaqsi iktar milli nagħmel asserzjonijiet. Ġifieri rrid inqajjem ftit mistoqsijiet illi kif qalli Ingram meta l-bieraġi fil-kamra u stedinni biex nieħu sehem f'din id-diskussjoni, għalli aħna nixtiequ li niddiskutu dawn il-proposti u naħseb li l-idea tiegħu kienet illi jekk hemm xi mistoqsijiet li wieħed għandu jistaqsi qabel ma jipproponihom kif huma biex jiċċarhom forsi dan huwa il-mument fejn dan jista' jsir. Grazzi.
Thank you, Professor. Issa ħa niftħu il-floor. Issa l-avukat jista' jwieġeba ħabba ħin. Okay, għandkom xi mistoqsijiet? X'għad trid jgħid xi ħaġa?
Thank you. Just to start off with, there were a few considerable number of points that I disagreed with Professor Friggieri about. I don't want to hog the mic for too long, so I'll just stick to two of them mainly, if you don't mind. Sorry. The first one being, you spoke about there, in all probability, having to be some vagueness to the laws in certain contexts, which, to my mind, is a very dangerous proposition. I would imagine that certainly there are exceptions to the law, but those exceptions are addressed if and when they arise. Otherwise, the law should be a guiding point throughout that people adhere to it pretty much any time. The notion of there being a sort of a blurry grey area within the law that the authorities may and often do abuse of is a dangerous concept. I would have to disagree strongly on that point. On the second point, you commented about that letter that was passed about mocking the Pope and religion and whatnot, which, you know, to all intents and purposes might be a little bit offensive, but I'd imagine that the same thing has been done with regards politicians, with regards numerous members of states and whatnot, who are either morally reprehensible for their actions or open to criticism. I do not understand really why you would suggest that the Pope or religion in any way, shape or form should not also be open to that sort of criticism. Thank you.
I'll answer them very, very quickly. I mentioned the British Foreign Office affair because I thought that raised the problem, that raised the question. You see, this guy, having said what he said, was removed from office. So I was asking, was that the right thing to do? Okay, I was asking that question, but as a matter of fact, he was. And the foreign minister in the UK called the comments, he described them as violent, despicable. So I said, I just asked that question. That is not just in the context of Malta or Maltese law that such things might happen, or that such comments might give rise to the kind of discussion that we're having here. I wasn't making sweeping statements about that. I just mentioned it as an example. The point about vagueness, I take your point. I think that the law needs to be as specific as possible, but there's always room for interpretation, and you know that as much as I do. Judges are all the time doing it, and in cases like this, it's not going to be easy. There is a committee at the moment, and I'm going to try to discuss this, and Dr. Bonnici is sitting on that committee. It's not going to be easy for them to define what is, for example, to be considered as obscene. It's not going to be easy. So, and I'm not sure whether you ought to try to be as specifically clear about that, rather than sort of giving guidelines about what people should keep in mind when where that is concerned. I may be wrong there, but I think that I'd go for I'd approach it with great caution, and I'm sure that they're not going to find it easy. That's why I'm saying that maybe it's the nature of the subject that would not make it easy for people not to allow for a certain room for maneuvering where definitions are concerned. Definitions are always hard to give, and definitions of obscenity and what constitutes harm maybe are even more difficult than others. But that was my point. Your point was it's much better to make it specific. My point is it's going to be difficult for them to make it as specific as maybe you'd like it to be. But let's see. It's going to be discussed.
Shatti Ho.
Professor Friggieri, do you think that if a group of people want to read or watch or see something together in their privacy of a theater or a room or whatever, do you think that the state should in any way intervene to ensure that they are not harmed by this? by what they choose to see or read?